is a step closer to getting the law changed so children can cycle on footpaths. Joe Clendon, we've mentioned this before, successfully petitioned Parliament's Transport Select Committee to look into the matter, and it's been seeking reaction. And now the NZTA is in favour. It recommends allowing children under 12 to cycle on footpaths. Is that a sensible compromise, please?
I'm a little bit conflicted about that, to be honest, because I remember when my son was about 8, he got hit actually, a car backing out of its driveway. So there's danger, isn't there? Less danger than on the road, but if you're going to allow young children to be cycling on the footpath, they need to learn some rules about that too, don't they?
Yeah, if they're not cognitively mature enough to be safe on the roads, they're nevertheless still a risk on the footpath for those reasons, and also to the elderly, and there are various situations.
If they make it a rule that they're allowed to be on the footpath, then I think that opens up for training people about how to ride and how to ride safely on footpaths, so that would come into it. And I mean, I'm a cyclist, and occasionally to avoid busy roads, I go on the footpath, and I'm always aware, looking out for people, and I call out. I don't have a bell, but I should probably get one, but I call out and say, I'm coming through, I mean, good cycling etiquette needs to be taught at the same time as you bring that rule in.
Regarding the Canterbury closure, says Alf of Christchurch, when will companies stop regarding people as HR assets only? Closing an entire factory, a big decision. As a shareholder, this is the point he's making, I would be appalled if one of my investments supported this outmoded version of best practice. Is Alf right about the passivity of the world's shareholders now? Does it strike a chord with you in terms of the profits they demand?
Yes, it does, and I think, but it leaves you some choices, doesn't it, in terms of where you're going to invest your money in terms of shares, and if you as unhappy as he would be with a decision like that being made, that kind of wholesale closure and job loss, then you take your shares out, don't you, and you put them elsewhere with a company that has more corporate social responsibility.
Mondelez on its website says its purpose and vision is to create more moments of joy. To advance.
Only by eating chocolate, not by being paid well or having a job at all, apparently.
Well, it does address, I suppose, that in a way. It wants to advance social sustainability and help our communities thrive, to lead from the head and the heart.
Not Dunedin, though.
You don't think it's done that in Dunedin?
Would seem not, wouldn't it? How ironic that description is.
And the strange thing about it is that one of the reasons they've given is that I think it's like 20% of the chocolate is consumed here and 80% goes overseas. Most of our export industries are based on that ratio. That's exactly what happens. If we made that decision on that basis, we would shut down dairying, we would shut down meat, we would shut down most of our industries, because the 20-80 ratio is what we do.
Yeah, so the Tasman Sea applies, the tyranny of the Tasman applies to every business.
Yes,
basically.
It does. Yes.
Interestingly, John Campbell is listed as a Mondelez founder. And he, of course, was a bit of a social idealist who wanted to improve the lives of his workers and pull them out of the grind.
Legacy's been ruined, hasn't it?
Of Victorian England. Very good. Nice to have you both on the panel as the music swells. Philippa Stevenson, thank you, Philippa.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll talk next time. And Paula Penfold, always nice to see you.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And we're back tomorrow. And Checkpoints with John Campbell is coming right up.
Kia ora everyone. Tonight on Checkpoint, 5 people have died in a plane crash in Melbourne. We have spoken to an eyewitness who was right beside the crash as the explosion even pushed heat into his car. As fire crews continue to battle the Port Hills fire in Christchurch, the state of emergency has been pushed out. We're with evacuees as they return to their homes for the first time since the fires began. A mother goes to the High Court for compensation over the death of her son at a mental health unit. And a 30,000 strong crowd gathers for Bruce Springsteen's first concert in Christchurch. You may be heading there now. We are there with the man who has waited longest in the queue. Join us after the Pips and Katrina and the news.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, good evening, ko Katrina Batanaho. A mother taking Wellington's District Health Board to the High Court says her case is a landmark one that could lead to lawsuits over other deaths in state care. Lynn Copeland's son Samuel Fisher died while at Wellington Hospital's mental health unit in April 2015. She says the Capital and Coast DHB did not hold up her son's right not to be deprived of life, and through her lawyer is seeking $100,000 in compensation.
If a mental health patient or prisoner is detained by the state, they must be protected and kept safe, which wasn't the case in Samuel's case.
Lynn Copeland says she hopes the case will bring more light to the issue of stretched mental health services throughout the country. The police in Melbourne say all 5 people on board a small plane which crashed into a shopping centre earlier today died in the accident. The aircraft slammed into the roof of the DFO retail centre shortly after taking off from Essendon Airfield in the city's northwest, exploding on impact. The ABC's Yvette Gray has this report.
The light plane burst into flames after it plunged into a DFO outlet shortly before 9 o'clock this morning. These witnesses watched the tragedy unfold.
The plane just completely nosedived into the side of the building.
There was explosions going off after one another.
And just erupted into a huge fireball.
The charter flight had just taken off and was bound for King Island. Police say a mayday call was made after the Beechcraft appears to have suffered catastrophic engine failure. Australian Transport Safety Bureau investigators are due on site this afternoon.
Yvette Gray reporting the crash is Victoria's worst aviation accident in 30 years. The police have been accused of presenting crime statistics in a way which could unwittingly identify the individuals involved. Documents obtained by RNZ News under the Official Information Act have revealed Statistic New Zealand's dissatisfaction with the approach police are taking. It said the police refusal to make the data anonymous by rounding it up meant confidential personal information wasn't adequately protected. The police say rounding up the data to make it anonymous makes it less useful. Stats now says the problem has been resolved but won't explain how. A witness is amazed that no one was killed when scaffolding collapsed with 7 workers on it at the Panmure Bridge in East Auckland. 3 people from a painting company were taken to Middlemore Hospital, one with moderate injuries, and another person was taken to the local medical centre. Local business owner Roger Hill was about 30 metres away when he saw the north side of the scaffolding fold and fall into the river this morning. He says the workers are lucky.
No one got hurt worse or killed actually, because they were falling off. You could sliding down and falling off. It was quite amazing.
Roger Hill, who witnessed the collapse, WorkSafe investigators are at the scene. The remaining residents could get to their cordoned off Port Hills homes sometime tomorrow. Cordons remain on Dyers Pass Road at the entrances to Victoria Park and Worsleys Road, where 51 homeowners can't yet return. Civil Defence Controller Anne Columbus says it's hoped that restricted access will be provided within the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, the state of emergency declared on Thursday night has been extended until next Tuesday. The Mayor of Christchurch, Leanne Dalzell, says while the fire has been contained, there's still a potentially serious situation in the Port Hills.
The fire is still being fought on the ground and in the air. The environment remains volatile inside the controlled area. The fire is not out. There are extensive hotspots and they continue to find hotspots to deal with. There is always the risk that further evacuations will be required.
Leanne Dalzell. Donald Trump has appointed an Army general known as a straight shooter to be his new national security advisor. The President has praised Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster as a man of talent and experience. The ABC's Connor Duffy reports.
Mr Trump is continuing to announce key appointments in unconventional ways. Today he spoke briefly at his Florida resort to announce Lieutenant General Herbert Raymond McMaster as his new national security advisor. General McMaster is seen as an independent and influential military thinker. He wrote a book critical of US generals for not taking a tougher line with their political masters during the Vietnam War. Mr Trump's previous pick, General Michael Flynn, was forced to resign just weeks into his term for giving a false account of a conversation with Russia's ambassador.
Connor Duffy in Washington. It's 5 past 5. To sport, New Zealand cricket's latest million-dollar man, Trent Boult, has labelled his new IPL deal as surreal. Boult, who's ranked number 2 on the world one-day bowler rankings, was brought by Kolkata, having played just one game for Hyderabad in the competition last year when he signed for $850,000. Boult says the whole process is bizarre, but he never felt any nerves ahead of the latest auction.
Probably more nervous signing the application and putting my name down and all that kind of thing and sending it away. I think once it's in their hands, it's totally out of mind. So it was just bizarre, really. Hey, it's a lot of money. It's bizarre how that much money can be put on the head of a player to play for 6 or 7 weeks.
Trent Boult's Black Caps teammates Corey Anderson, Matt Henry, Martin Guptill and Lockie Ferguson picked up deals worth between $100,000 and $200,000. New Zealand Football says it won't be offering professional contracts to women players, despite complaints from the country's most capped player. The 27-year-old Abby Erceg is retiring from the international game, saying the players aren't valued by New Zealand Football. Erceg says domestic-based players are expected to train during the day, so struggle to get a job that pays their bills. But New Zealand Football Chief Executive Andy Martin says the domestic game is amateur. He believes the best approach is to put money into programs that help players develop to international level so they can earn professional contracts overseas. That's the news.
Another by-election, another absence from National.
National leaving their Mount Albert voters completely.
Are Labour and the Greens too cosy in Mount Albert?
We're just presenting our different vision to voters, and I think there's been an appreciation about a different style of politics.
And minor parties say tax reform's overdue.
A lot of it comes back to the tax system, and that's the conversation that neither of the major parties really want to have.
The Mount Albert by-election debate after 8 a.m. with me, Todd Niall, on Morning Report.
Then on 9 to noon, is it possible to fish sharks sustainably? Professor Colin Simpfendorfer says outright banning is the wrong way to go. And after 10, a fairy tale starting once upon a time in a land not far away, a place where no one cared if you were straight or you were gay. We'll speak to its authors. Join me, Catherine Ryan, on 9 to noon after Morning Report on RNZ National.
Met service weather to midnight tomorrow, Northland, Auckland, Coromandel and Bay of Plenty. Fine today, apart from isolated showers in Northland, clearing this afternoon. Cloudy periods developing tomorrow with isolated showers. Waikato to Whanganui, also Taumaranui, Taihape and Taupō. Fine and cloudy periods, isolated showers developing this afternoon, clearing tomorrow morning. Manawatu, Horowhenua, Kapiti Coast and Wellington, fine with areas of cloud morning and night. Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and Wairarapa, fine. Marlborough, Nelson and Bulla, fine, but cloudy periods about Bulla with patchy rain there late tomorrow. Westland and Fiordland, rain gradually spreading north with heavy falls from the glaciers southwards, clearing in Fiordland tomorrow morning and Westland by tomorrow evening. Canterbury, high cloud increasing with a few spots of rain tomorrow. Otago and Southland, high cloud increasing, scattered rain developing this evening, then clearing tomorrow morning. And the Chatham Islands, cloudy. It's 5:08 and you're listening to Checkpoint.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you for being with us, everyone. We're in Christchurch tonight for the fires, of course, the earthquake commemorations tomorrow, and the Bruce Springsteen concert later this evening, of course. And don't forget, we're broadcasting live on Facebook, Freeview Channel 50, and YouTube. We're also in Panmure coming up, but we begin in Melbourne. And Victoria's worst aviation accident in 30 years. 5 people are dead, the pilot and 4 other people who are thought to include American tourists heading to play golf on an island in Bass Strait. The plane had just taken off from Essendon Airfield in the city's northwest. Former councillor Peter Scullin was in a car on the motorway being driven by his wife when the plane crashed and exploded beside them.
We got to the top of the off-ramp and then we could hear this noise, a loud noise of a plane, sort of like, that noise that you hear, that dreaded noise. And then we actually couldn't see the plane because we were executing a right-hand turn heading south towards Melbourne CBD. Anyway, then a massive ball of flame, just as we completing the right-hand turn to our left, a massive ball of flame about 20 metres from us. Then unfortunately the plane clipped the corner of a major retailer called a DFO on the southeast corner of the building, and and the pilot clipped the corner of this shopping centre, and then a massive ball of flame. I was a passenger inside the car. My wife was driving, and inside the car we could feel the intense heat from the flames. You know, it's sort of the thing you see on a movie, you know, where they have all those special effects, but unfortunately this was real, and even worse still, tragically, there were 5 people on board the plane, and where we were the lucky ones who didn't get hit, I'd be most surprised if, because the massive ball of flame was so big, it'd be hard to think that anyone could survive that. It's quite a tragedy.
Yes, it is, absolutely. And your description and the pictures I'm seeing suggest that there was absolutely no way anyone could possibly have survived it. What seems to be miraculous, and we don't know this for sure as we talk, but it does seem to be the case, is that no one on the ground was killed. Yes,
that's a very good point. Well, because we were making a right-hand turn in busy traffic with cars behind us, we had to complete the turn, even though it happened right before our eyes, and we drove down a road called Buller Road about another 200 metres and pulled up, and my wife and I did some deep breathing, and we thought, this is our lucky day. And unfortunately for the people on board that plane, probably one of the last things the pilot and the passengers would have seen would have been the roof of our car as they clipped the edge of this shopping centre.
It passed that close to you?
It did. Well, we actually didn't see it because it was right above us, if you know what I mean.
Yes. And you felt the heat from the explosion in your car?
Yeah, well, you know, it was just a massive ball of flame that went, say, 20 to 30 metres in the air, and it's surreal when something like this happens. You know, you see it in a movie and you sort of shrug your shoulders, but when you're there, it's different. And my wife and I are counting our lucky stars. We're very lucky that unfortunately, in the case of the shopping centre, it doesn't open till 10 a.m. in the morning, and this all happened about 9 o'clock. It could have been a lot worse.
Gosh, it could have. It does seem to be very close to the airport. Can you explain the proximity of the runway to the shopping centre? What sort of distance between the two?
Well, this used to be Melbourne's, Essendon Airport used to be the main airport in Melbourne once, but it's much closer to the CBD, so now the main airport is out at Tullamarine.
That's right. To
the north of Melbourne. So this airport is now used, well, when they built Tullamarine, residents were all told that, oh yes, Essendon Airport won't be used as much now, but because of tourist activity, because of helicopters, news media, emergency services, air ambulances and fire aeroplanes, the airport's getting a lot of use. So this kind of raises a question of should there be so much aircraft activity in the middle of a pretty intensely suburban populated area?
Peter Scullin, who was driving along as the crash occurred beside him. Let's head from Victoria to Canterbury. The state of emergency in Christchurch and Selwyn has been extended as fire crews continue to battle the Port Hills fire. 46 properties remain behind a cordon on Worsley's Road, but there were smiles and sighs of relief this morning as cordons on Kennedy's Bush Road and Hoonhay Valley Road were lifted, allowing more than 100 residents back home. Our reporter Maya Burry was there.
A sense of normality returned to Kennedy's Bush Road at 8 o'clock this morning as rubbish trucks and evacuated residents drove past a cordon which has been blocking access to their homes since Wednesday. While the cordons have been lifted for residents, access is still restricted for all other members of the public. But Kennedy's Bush resident Charlene Oakley is just happy to return to an intact home.
We're just so lucky it's safe. The fire was so close to the house. We're really lucky people.
How close was it?
300 metres, fire right up to the edge of the road. It's just amazing.
And how quickly did you have to get out?
We had minutes. We just ran. We were coming up the road to collect the animals and the computer, and the police just said, get out, get out.
Residents were returning with pets, photos and keepsakes they had quickly packed, in some cases with only minutes to evacuate. Evacuee Greg Hansen says he's looking forward to settling back in.
Well, it's pretty exciting actually. Yeah, we haven't been there for a week or so we're back, chickens in the back of the car, so get them back to their coop and be able to start some work, and looking forward to it, for sure.
Some residents have expressed frustration with the lack of communication from Civil Defence about when they could return home. David Kay and his family have stayed at 4 different places since they were evacuated last Wednesday night. He says communication has improved since the weekend, and they are relieved the cordon has been lifted.
It's really great to get back home again, so looking forward to it and a bit of normality. Living out of a suitcase or a bag and that kind of stuff. Yeah, back to normality, which should be nice.
46 properties on Worsley's Road remain behind a cordon. Civil Defence Controller Anne Columbus says they are hoping to have restricted access for residents in these areas in the next 24 hours.
We understand the frustration of residents in terms of how they'll be feeling, and we're doing everything that we can to relax those cordons. Health and safety still remains a key consideration and priority, and we want to make sure that we've got the right things in place before we go ahead and relax those cordons.
While cordons are being relaxed, Civil Defence is still warning of the real dangers of the blaze, which is not yet extinguished. A state of emergency covering Christchurch City and the Selwyn district has been extended from today until next Tuesday, but could be terminated earlier. The Christchurch Mayor, Leanne Dalzell, says while the fire had been contained, there is still a potentially serious situation in the Port Hills.
The fire is still being fought on the ground and in the air. The environment remains volatile inside the controlled area. The fire is not out. There are extensive hotspots, and they continue to find hotspots to deal with. There is always the risk that further evacuations will be required.
Leanne Dalzell says the state of emergency will be reconsidered at a meeting on Friday. In Christchurch for Checkpoint, Maya Burry.
We're going to be back in Christchurch very shortly, but first let's head to East Auckland, where locals are surprised and relieved. No one was killed when scaffolding with 7 workers on it collapsed into the Tamaki River. 6 workers fell and 1 was trapped against the Panmure Bridge after this morning's collapse, but miraculously only 3 people were even taken to hospital suffering from minor to moderate injuries. Laura Tupou was there.
Oh, it looks like a horrendous mess. There's huge piles of scaffolding planks and sheets of plywood in the water, and all the aluminium tubing that was the base of the working platform is tilted down because the south side held and it's the north side that's let go. So the whole thing, just imagine it folding down.
Local business owner Roger Hill was settling down for morning tea when he heard the scaffolding start to collapse less than 50 metres away.
You're lucky that no one got hurt worse or killed actually, because they were falling off. You could sliding down and falling off. It was quite amazing.
A senior fire station officer, Frank Walsh, says there were 7 people on the scaffolding when it collapsed.
6 people ended up in the water and 1 person was trapped on the bridge abutment. We had to effect a rescue with that with a turntable ladder.
The scaffolding was erected by Affordable Scaffolding. Cohen Walsh, who works for another scaffolding company, says he was shocked to see it in such a state, and he's surprised that no one died.
Looks like a kid's job. It looks like it's been not done properly at all. Yeah, rushed. You can tell we've done this side. The right side is just rushed it, and then it's collapsed, forcing the other sides to fall.
St John Ambulance says 3 people were taken to Middlemore Hospital, 1 with moderate injuries and 2 with minor injuries, and another worker was taken to a local medical centre. Neither the Top Coat Specialist Coating Company nor the Affordable Scaffolding Company would talk to RNZ News today. WorkSafe is investigating the accident. Mō te otaka o te ahiahi, ko Laura Tupou aho.
You are with Checkpoint on RNZ. It's 19.5 minutes past 5. Thank you for being with us. Coming up on the program, a mother heads to the High Court for compensation over the death of her son at a mental health unit. Donald Trump chooses his new national security advisor. And the man who loves Bruce Springsteen so much he queued for 5 days to be first through the gates. We would love to hear from you in any way you choose. You can text us on 2101 if you're on your way to the Bruce Springsteen concert, or if you're waiting already at AMI in a very excited state, do text us 2101. You can tweet us at Checkpoint RNZ, Facebook Checkpoint with John Campbell, or email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz. Tomorrow, a special 150-metre memorial wall will be unveiled in Christchurch to mark the 6th anniversary of the big Christchurch quake. Tonight, the families of the 185 people who lost their lives will gather for a private blessing. Bruce McKeegan is the father of Matthew McKeegan, known as Matty, who died in the 2011 quake almost 6 years ago. 6 years ago tomorrow, fleeing Southern Inc., where he worked. He's also the chairperson of the Earthquake Families Trust. He joins me now. Are you there, Bruce?
Yes, John, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. It's lovely to talk to you. I think more importantly, how are you?
Stressed.
Yeah. Stress because I know how much you and everyone involved in this memorial wants it to be right?
Yes, exactly. And the end result we've got, I'm standing outside the memorial now, and it is looking absolutely picturesque.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely picturesque. Sun streaming down, it looks quiet, tranquil. It's going to be an absolutely perfect memorial for Christchurch.
Yes, I think it will be. And what will make it perfect? It's a striking piece of design. All the names of those who were lost are on it, right?
All 185 names are on the wall, and they get revealed to the families tonight.
And also, it's a place that you can just come and wander along and quietly be with those names.
Exactly. You've got two sides to the river. We've got a memorial wall on one side, where the names obviously are, and on the north bank you've got a reflective space that allows you either as a family member or somebody from Christchurch, or even from people from out of Christchurch, where they can sit down and reflect on the journey that they've been on and the losses and the growths out of Christchurch.
Yeah, you were a family's representative on the kind of committee, right? The memorial committee.
Yeah, I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now.
And has that been a good thing to channel your energies into? Because the sense of loss and hopelessness must have been profound over the past 6 years.
It's been quite difficult and quite challenging. Yes, it has been. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do the families know? How many of the families have seen the complete design?
You mean right down to the name?
Yeah. None.
No, nobody. No, nobody has seen the names.
Wow, so tonight is going to be very, very moving, isn't it?
So tonight's going to be a very emotional night, because this is the first time that anybody other than the guys working on the wall or the stonemasons have actually seen the names in place. So this is the first opportunity that families will get to, firstly, to see the names, and secondly, to be able to touch their loved ones' names.
Oh, wow. And as far as you know, I guess it's impossible to say, but as far as you know, are all 185 families represented? Because, of course, lest we forget, there are a lot of foreign families, aren't there?
There is a lot of foreign families, but in terms of representation, I've got an American family staying with me.
Have you?
Yep, I have. We've got a lot of Japanese here, a lot of Chinese. I know the UK companies here. UK families here. We've got a lot of overseas people, but in terms of the number of people from families that are coming tonight, we have 600 family members will be on site here tonight for the unveiling of the names.
Gosh,
I think that says huge about the family's involvement and how much they like the wall.
And how much it means to them, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It does. Bruce, can you tell me about the American family? Have they? So they obviously. Did they lose a son or a daughter?
A daughter. They lost Rachel Connolly.
And was she a student?
She was a 26-year-old American student working in New Zealand. And she was about to get tattooed by Matthew.
Oh no, your boy Matty. Oh dear. And so this is a big thing for you to have them staying with you, right?
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. It's very nice. It's their first time to New Zealand.
It's the first time since they lost their girl.
Yep.
Gosh, this is still big stuff, isn't it? Very, very big stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so everyone gets to see the names of the person they loved and lost tonight.
Yes, they do, yeah.
And then tomorrow, of course, is the day, and so there is a very big civic formal event there. Will you go back to that tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, not all the family members will come back to the formal one. I think once you've done the initial reveal of the names, that will be enough of an emotional drain for some families.
Yeah.
And they won't be able to do it. A lot of people will take. I mean, we've got tomorrow off. A lot of other people will take the day off as well, and go to all the events.
Yeah. Well, I really look forward to seeing the work. Checkpoint will be there tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow, and the program's going live from Christchurch tomorrow. So I really look forward to seeing the wall. And thank you for all your work.
Cool.
And having lost so much, you've made something wonderful, Bruce, by the sound of things.
Yeah, I certainly have.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of all the boys. Yep.
Thank you.
And the girls.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. Bruce McKeegan, whose son, Maddie, was a tattoo artist, a training tattoo artist. He was killed in the earthquake along with 184 other people. A reminder for those of you who weren't living in New Zealand in 2011 that 185 people lost their lives and the earthquake levelled much of the CBD and erased large chunks of some communities simply from the map, particularly out east. For a long time, life took on a kind of unreality in Christchurch. The weight of that event and the red zone and insurers and rebuilds and schools closing and roads you simply couldn't pass down anymore, and all the new acronyms and the uncertainty meant that there certainly wasn't much partying going on. Now, tomorrow Checkpoint commemorates the 6th anniversary of that terrible day, but tonight 30,000 people are about to do something wonderful. They're going to the Bruce Springsteen concert at AMI Stadium. It's his first in Christchurch at the South Island. People campaigned very hard to get him there, and many people are expecting him to acknowledge the date and what the city has been through with a very special repertoire indeed. The concert is sold out, of course, and people have been queuing for days to get to the front right up by the stage. At the front of that queue was Glenn McCartney, who we spoke to via Skype video as the gates were opening early this afternoon. How are you going?
I'm loving it.
Are you're number one in the? Are you number one in the queue?
Apparently so. Yeah.
Oh, brother, how good is that?
Yeah. I'll just walk out of it. Bruce is doing a sound check now, so I'll just walk away from the sound of it.
What sound? What song is on in the background, Glenn? As the number one in the queue man, what song is he sound checking?
Sherry Darling.
and how does Sherry Darling begin? What's the first line of Sherry Darling?
Your mama's in the front seat. Tell her to shove over and move her big feet.
Go, Glenn. When did you arrive? When did you arrive in the queue?
Friday at 11 a.m.
You mad bugger. And why? What is it? What is it that means so much to you?
He's just completely different to everyone else. Like any other concert I've been to, it never lives up to a Bruce Springsteen show.
Truly?
Yeah, amazing. Like the energy that he puts out is just incredible, and he empties his tank every time he goes on stage, and he'll never leave his stage without emptying his tank. He's just crazy. At the age of 67 years old, I've never seen anyone that old perform like him.
That elderly and infirm, Glenn. It's a miracle he doesn't have a walking frame on the stage, bro.
Well, it's not as bad as Mick Jagger or anything, so yeah. But he's never done drugs, or he doesn't drink alcohol, so that's probably the reason.
I'm struck by his generosity as a performer. I mean, how many times has he sung Born to Run? And every time he does it as if it were the first. I mean, that's a generous performer, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And he is he deserves the respect he puts out. I mean, he does so much for people as well, especially in the States, and that he's a real person's people. Like, yeah.
And so, how many times have you seen him, Glenn?
This will be my 7th time.
Good man. And where are you from?
Christchurch. I rang you originally, but yeah, I live in Christchurch now.
So how special is it to see him in his first ever performance in Christchurch?
it means the world to me personally, and it probably means a lot to everyone else as well, especially all the hardship that they've been through in the last couple of weeks as well for fires, but and the earthquakes and stuff. It's actually really, really good to get a big performance or big performer here in Christchurch for once, instead of just skipping Christchurch as they normally do and go straight to Wellington or Auckland or something.
Yeah. And do you think he'll do a song or two for Christchurch? Have you got some suggestions of what he might play on the eve of the 6th anniversary of the February earthquake?
I guarantee he'll play My City of Ruins. Probably Wrecking Ball.
If he plays My City of Ruins, there won't be a dry eye in the house if he plays My City of Ruins, will there?
What's that, sorry?
There won't be a dry eye in the house if he plays My City of Ruins.
Yeah. No, I'm taking it there'll be a few tears.
Yeah. And where will you be, bro?
Yeah.
You will be leaning on the stage, will you? You'll be right up the front.
Yep. I'll be dead smack in the centre on the rail on the stage. Yep.
And who are you going with? Have you got some mates, or are you just going in on your own to fully enjoy it?
I tried to get my partner along, but she's sick of Bruce at the moment because I've just been thrashing it for the last 6 months. So, but I came here by myself, and I've met some amazing people, and yeah, it's an amazing experience, really.
Well, Glenn, I hope you have the most wonderful night. You've been queuing since Friday morning. I hope it's everything you want it to be.
Yeah. I guarantee it will be. Yeah. It's going to be an amazing night. And
Thanks.
yeah, Christchurch really deserves it.
Ain't that the truth? Glenn McCartney, who was at the front of the queue, queuing since Friday. Bruce Springsteen's on tonight. A reminder that tomorrow Checkpoint will be live from Christchurch. Coming up to 28 minutes to 6 after the headlines. Nona is here with business news. Then the battle for the Maori seats develops into a full-blown assault. Such a fascinating contest. The Northern Regional Council approves of funding for a Huntavasa art gallery. Summer finally arrives in Wellington. Woohoo! And she's fast becoming a celebrity after an investigative journalist spent weeks tracking her down. We meet Rosemary Dempsey, the mastermind behind Kiwi Onion Dip. All of that coming up before 6:30. But first of all, Katrina Baden with the headlines.
A mother taking Wellington's District Health Board to the High Court says her case is a landmark one that could lead to lawsuits over other deaths in state care. Lynn Copeland's son Samuel Fisher died while at Wellington Hospital's mental health unit in April 2015. She says the Capital and Coast DHB did not hold up her son's right not to be deprived of life, and through her lawyer is seeking $100,000 in compensation. Witnesses have described a massive fireball as a plane crashed into a shopping centre near Melbourne's Essendon Airport, killing all 5 people aboard. No one appears to have been hurt on the ground. The turboprop Beechcraft plane had taken off with golfers, some thought to be American citizens, on a trip to King Island in Bass Strait. A witness is amazed that no one was killed when scaffolding collapsed with 7 workers on it at the Panmure Bridge in East Auckland. 3 people from a painting company were taken to Middlemore Hospital with minor to moderate injuries, and another person was taken to the local medical centre. Remaining fire evacuees could get to their cordoned-off Port Hills homes sometime tomorrow. Cordons remain on Dyers Pass Road at the entrances to Victoria Park and Worsleys Road, blocking entry to 51 properties. The US President Donald Trump has appointed a general known as a thoughtful, if straight-talking, military strategist as his national security advisor. General H.R. McMaster served in Afghanistan and Iraq. A BBC correspondent says he doesn't appear to have close ties to Moscow and was recently commissioned to study the ways the US could counter some of Russia's military advances. A child has been flown to hospital after being hit by a car in Waikato. The police and ambulance were called to Waiho, near to Aroha, just before 3:30 this afternoon. The police say the child was in a serious condition. Those are the headlines. I'll be back at 6.
Thanks, Katrina. Let's turn to business news now with Nona Peltier. Hi, Nona. Really busy day in corporate reporting season.
You bet. It's going to be a heck of a week. We're not even done yet. Is this only Tuesday?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, really. And on it goes. So today we had quite a few interesting companies report, big ones too. Started the day with Mercury. So that used to be Mighty River Power. That's anyway, they had a very strong first half result. It was helped a bit by some one-time items, but nevertheless up 53%.
Well, year on year.
No,
half
year on year.
Yeah.
Year on year, yeah, but for the first half, yeah. And $113 million. That was a very good result. So what was really behind that was the strength of their customer loyalty schemes that's hanging on to their customers longer. So they're focusing on retention. There's a lot of competition in that sector.
Yes, people never used to change their power companies. Now they do it all the time.
They do all the time.
So it's a much more fluid market, for want of a better term.
Yeah,
than
very
it was.
much so, very much so. So that's their strategy. Hang on to those customers as long as they're doing better than some of their competitors. So yeah, pretty good result for them, and they're planning to grow through the same strategy, as well as looking at some acquisitions and some generation development projects when the time is right.
So what was the profit?
Which was the profit? $113 million.
So if you are a Mercury customer, you're going to be saying to them, hold on a sec, $113 million, cut us an even better deal if you want to keep us.
Well, yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's interesting because the Electricity Authority came out, I think it was last week, saying that the hydro lakes were quite full and overflowing. So basically, hey, you could get a better deal. But a lot of customers, I didn't know this, but over 90% of people actually have fixed contracts with their electricity supplier. But not me, so I might be able to go for a better deal there.
Shop
You never
around,
know.
Nona.
That's right, I like to be a good shopper. Okay, now we've got Tourism Holdings. They're an interesting company. They're benefiting from the tourism sector, and you would expect a 38% increase in their profit in the first half to $11 million. And yeah, good outlook for them too. Okay, Heartland Bank, smaller bank. They make small loans and so on. Also, excellent result, up 14% to $29 million in the first half. That's pretty darn good and set to succeed continuing. I think their bad debts rose, but nevertheless, they think it's pretty much a solid performance there, and the market liked it, I guess. And so, PGG Wrightson, exposure to the dairy sector.
Absolutely.
So you would expect tough times, but really they actually had a flat profit, so pretty good. They were even where they were last year, and they made $16 million just the same, so not bad. And they're expecting better days ahead with improvement in dairy prices. And then, of course, there's the bad. The Comvita result wasn't great, and that's because we've been seeing some problems with honey production. That's whether that's just not conducive to honey production, and not only that, some changes in the Chinese regulations, which has made it difficult for some of their market to buy and sell their product. Never mind, though, they made a $7.1 million loss, and that compares with a $3 million profit the year earlier. Yeah. However, they had indicated it, so the market wasn't too surprised. And how did that all finish up, you think?
How did that all finish up, Nona?
Okay, so the top 50 index, it rose 0.2% by 16 points to 7,116. The New Zealand dollar drifted a bit lower, and I really do mean it drifted, and that's partly because they were celebrating the President's Day holiday in the U.S. on Monday.
So no lead from the U.S.
No lead, right.
Thanks, Nona. Nona Peltier, our business reporter here in Auckland, 22-6. The battle for the Maori seats has developed into what really looks like a full-blown assault. The latest attack came from Labour leader Andrew Little, who accused the Maori Party of not being kaupapa Maori or Maori-based. Mr Little may not have understood exactly how offensive his strike would be at the time, but the comments have shaken the foundations of the Maori Party, with both leaders hitting back. Our Maori Issues correspondent Mihi Narangi Forbes reports.
The Maori and Mana parties shared their day in the Whangarei Sun yesterday, signing a kawinata or contract pledging to win over Maori voters. Labour Party voices reacted to the news of the signing, with leader Andrew Little taking it one stage further.
Well, the Māori Party is not kaupapa Māori. We know that. It has conceded on every important issue affecting Māori.
A claim the Maori Party took issue with. The President, Tukuroirangi Morgan, responded like this.
So Andrew Little doesn't know kaupapa Māori if it hit him in the head. He is completely ignorant to our values, to the manner in which we live our lives, and how we operate as a vibrant culture in this country.
Former co-leader Sir Peter Sharples agreed with Mr Morgan.
I'm totally insulted. You see, it's that kind of using made-up phrases like that to denigrate the authenticity of Maori that really does the damage in race relations. He should be ashamed of himself.
The Maori Party was born from the 2004 Hikoi to Parliament, where more than 10,000 Maori and Pākehā protested against the Labour government's seabed and foreshore legislation. One Maori Labour MP crossed the floor in protest and soon became the leader of the Maori Party. Dame Tariana Turia says Mr Little's comments are the reason she left.
I realised very sadly that our people had trusted the Labour Party for years and years and years. And in fact, when it came to the crunch, they would let our people down over the last piece of customary land that we held by default, and that they would take it to appease their voters.
That customary land Dame Tariana speaks of was the foreshore and seabed that under a law change became land owned by the Crown, which Māori Party President Tukuroirangi Morgan says was unforgivable.
It was an act of theft. It was an act of injustice against the Māori people. This was the last Labour government. The Māori Party was formed out of that, but from a party of protest, we are a party of progress.
Dame Tariana Turia says it can't be forgotten or forgiven.
Our people need to be reminded of the racism that continues to exist in the Labour Party.
But Te Taitokerau MP Calvin Davis says it's just politics and the Māori Party are thin-skinned.
If they're going to get stuck into us for that, then they also need to acknowledge it was the Labour Party that housed our people, the Labour Party that clothed our people, brought in the Waitangi Tribunal. They've just been really selective to suit their own agenda. It's disingenuous, they're thin-skinned, they just need to harden up.
Labour's Māori MPs are backing their boss Andrew Little and calling out the Māori Party for playing it up. Tāmaki Makaurau MP for Labour, Peeni Hienare, says there'll always be problems measuring kaupapa Māori in a Pākehā political framework.
What are they talking about? Because for mine, using kaupapa Māori as a bargaining chip for negotiations with a government and end up compromising, that's not kaupapa Māori to me. Kaupapa Māori is bigger than some of the petty politics that's playing out with the comments we've seen.
Hauraki MP Nanaia Mahuta and Ikoro Rāwhiti's Meka Whaitere question the Māori Party's record on unemployment, healthcare and homelessness. One thing is certain, the gloves are off in the Māori electorates. Mo te hōtaka o te ahiahi nei, ko mihi Ngarangi Forbes, ahau.
Kia ora mihi, a mother who is going to court in a bid to get compensation from Wellington's District Health Board over her son's death at a mental health unit believes it could pave the way for other lawsuits. Lynn Copeland says Samuel Fisher, her son, died while at Wellington Hospital's mental health unit in April 2015. Well, in fact, that's a statement of fact, but she's seeking $100,000 in compensation from the DHB, saying they did not uphold Samuel's right not to be deprived of life. She spoke to our reporter, Jacob McSweeney.
I don't know where to start. It's been horrific. His loss is just devastating. I cry every day. I pass the cemetery where he is, and I talk to him, and I miss him. We all miss him. He was a very clever man. He was a wonderful musician. He was an artist. He was just a very lovely person, and he lived with me. So I just miss him so badly, and I really can't believe that I'm never going to see him again. His legacy was to make things better for people. This is a legacy that he would like us to carry on.
In terms of the case against the DHB, just the specifics of it, it is because they failed in their duties to prevent your son from dying.
Yes, they did, and there was a hospital report done. This is called the Chaplow report by Capital and Coast DHB, who investigated Samuel's death, and they did acknowledge that Samuel was a high risk immediately before he died, and therefore more preventative measures should have been put into place.
And so you guys, with your case that you're taking to the High Court, you're citing the Bill of Rights?
Yes, this is a Bill of Rights case.
Specifically the right to life?
Yes, where if a mental health patient or prisoner is detained by the state, they must be protected and kept safe, which wasn't the case in Samuel's case.
At the end of the day, at the end of all this, what would be a good result for you?
They are held accountable and they're for their duty of care that they failed to deliver for Samuel, and then look at the systems of how that can be prevented.
Sam himself, he was almost advocating for changes to the mental health system.
Absolutely. He wrote many documents to Health and Disabilities, the last one being 2 nights before he died. And he would also have solutions to the problems as well. And during his time in hospital, he tried desperately to get hold of some of the news services and invite them into the hospital. But because he was inpatient, he was always stopped. But Sam had great compassion to people, and he was known in the mental health wards to go. We had something beautiful that another patient had written, that Sam would go and pick up feathers in the courtyard and give them to people. He would say, keep this with you, this is hope of things getting better for you in the system.
That was Lynn Copeland, the mother of Samuel Fisher, who died in a mental health unit at Wellington Hospital in 2015. She was speaking to Jacob McSweeney. Let's turn now to the tension between the public's right to know and the individual's right to privacy. Documents released to RNZ reveal Statistics New Zealand has been deeply unhappy with aspects of crime data reporting by police. In fact, Stats have urged police to reconsider their approach to ensure people will remain anonymous. They're concerned that police data handling could unwittingly lead to people being identified and potentially to vigilante attacks. Now, police believe what they're doing is safe. Is it? Here's our political reporter, Benedict Collins.
In November last year, the police took over the reporting of crime data from Statistics New Zealand. But documents obtained under the Official Information Act show how concerned Stats officials were with the way the police were handling the data. One wrote in an email that police in this case are seeking to release a series of substantively personal government-held data and information tables in a manner which does not seem to appropriately protect personal, confidential and classified data and information. Another talked about Statistics New Zealand agreeing to an option that would avoid the government statistician Liz McPherson having to approve either explicitly or implicitly what the police are doing. They said this would send police a further message about how unhappy we are with their chosen approach. The police are refusing to perturb the crime data, that's where small numbers are rounded up, to ensure anonymity. Dr Andrew Barlamy from Auckland University's Statistics Department says Stats NZ has every reason to be fearful.
It's very, very dangerous. It can get easily politicised and or something clumsy can happen. Imagine someone's been accused of paedophilia and they're innocent and they're targeted, and if that person could be isolated to within a geographical region, oh my God, what a nightmare.
Dr Barlamy says police should stick to solving crime.
It can be very, very dangerous when people who don't know what the issues are start issuing data, and then all of a sudden, you might have something that could be dangerous from a sort of almost like a vigilante point of view.
Labour's police spokesperson Stuart Nash was shocked.
Goodness me, if Stats New Zealand have a problem, then I think we should all be concerned about that. These guys know what they're doing and they know how to do this stuff well.
But the acting Deputy Chief Executive of Strategy for the Police, Mike Webb, says rounding up crime data at a local level makes it less useful.
Just to give you a practical example, if there's, say, one burglary in your street last month, that might be a matter that, concerns you a bit, but the discipline around perturbing data would actually report that one burglary in your street as a 3 because the numbers are too low, and so the perturbing disciplines kick in. But actually that 3 starts to negatively affect people's fear of crime. They would be misreading the situation just because of this statistical discipline around perturbing data.
Mr Webb says the police are using some suppression techniques and have struck the right balance.
There were some concerns around the level at which some of that data would be available, because we didn't want to be breaching people's privacy, particularly around some of the more sensitive and low volume crimes. But we're really happy with the way in which we worked through with Stats New Zealand and benefited from guidance from the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. I think we've reached a pretty good place now where the increased accessibility of that data is helping everybody.
The government statistician Liz McPherson didn't respond to numerous requests for an interview. In a statement, the department claimed the problems Stats NZ had identified were resolved, but it didn't explain how, saying it had nothing further to add. From Parliament for Checkpoint, Benedict Collins.
Let's go to the US now. Donald Trump has chosen his new national security advisor, and this time it's a pick which gets the nod from both Democrats and Republicans. Lieutenant General Herbert Raymond McMaster is a military officer who's known for speaking his mind and challenging his superiors. He takes the job after Mr. Trump's first choice, Michael Flynn, was forced to resign after reports emerged that he'd misled Vice President Mike Pence about his conversations with Russian officials. More to come there, we're sure. But with more on the new appointment, here's the ABC's Penny Timms.
Little about Donald Trump's presidency has been traditional, and he's continued to defy convention while announcing his pick for National Security Advisor from one of his own hotels, this one in Florida.
So I just wanted to announce, we've been working all weekend, very diligently, very hard, that General H.R. McMaster will become the National Security Advisor. He's a man of tremendous talent and tremendous experience. I watched and read a lot over the last 2 days. He is highly respected by everybody in the military, and we're very honored to have him.
President Trump made the announcement flanked by his new nominee and retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who has been acting in the job and will now serve as the National Security Council Chief of Staff, a position he says he's happy to take on.
General, Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve. I'm very honored by it, very privileged by it, and I'm very honored and privileged to serve alongside H.R. McMaster, who I've known for years as well. He's a great statesman and a great soldier. Thank you, sir.
Likewise, the straight-talking Lieutenant General Herbert Raymond McMaster says he's honoured to have been selected for National Security Advisor. The highly regarded military tactician is known for questioning authority and even wrote a book critical of US generals for not taking a tougher line with political leaders during the Vietnam War. That in itself has some in the US curious about just how he'll cope in the new administration and how it will cope with him. Longtime Trump critic, Republican Senator John McCain, has praised the appointment, describing it as an outstanding choice. Lieutenant General McMaster says he's thankful for the nomination.
I'd just like to say what a privilege it is to be able to continue serving our nation. I'm grateful to you for that opportunity, and I look forward to joining the national security team and doing everything I can to advance and protect the interests of the American people. Thank you very much, sir.
You're going to do a great job.
General McMaster takes over from Michael Flynn, who resigned in disgrace last week after lying to the White House about his conversations with Russia. Mr. Trump is understandably talking up his new appointments.
What a team. Sure. This is a great team. We're very, very honored. Our country is lucky to have two people like this, and frankly, after having met so many of the people in the military, we're lucky to have all of them. So thank you all very much. I'll see you back in Washington. We're leaving now.
It comes after a tumultuous few days for the president after he again attacked the media and alluded to a non-existent terror attack in Sweden. That country's Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven, says he was surprised by Mr. Trump's comments and says the incident highlights the importance of fact-checking information before spreading it. He also used the opportunity to talk up his country's prosperity.
The European Commission states that Sweden is Europe's most innovative country. The Global Innovation Index says Sweden is number 2 when it comes to innovative countries. So we have some very strong facts that shows that Sweden is also handling a situation.
Today is a federal holiday in the US to mark President's Day, but instead of celebrating, thousands of people in cities across the US have used the day to denounce the new presidency.
The people, united, will never be defeated.
We've just got some breaking news out of Hawke's Bay. We've been told, Checkpoint's been told by good sources in Hawke's Bay that the executive teams of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, their CEO, Andrew Newman, has resigned this afternoon, or told staff he is going to resign. That is the CEO of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council. Big supporter, Andrew Newman, of the Rua Taniwha Dam. We think it's taken people by surprise, this announcement. We're working on trying to find out more, but we understand he has told staff this afternoon he's resigning. The time on Checkpoint is 6 minutes to 6. Onion dip with chippies or carrot sticks or celery sticks and possibly fancier things in more rarefied kitchens than mine. It is, of course, a Kiwi culinary institution, author unknown. Until that is, our colleague Hayden Donnell, writing for the spin-off, went in search of her and found her after some fine sleuth work at a retirement village in the Auckland suburb of Epsom. Her name is Rosemary Dempsey. She was a home economist who got a call from Nestle to work for them in an attempt to bid flagging sales in some lines. And the rest, as many of us can attest, is history. Rosemary, who regards her family, not onion dip, as her finest creation, thinks all of this publicity is a bit of a hoot.
I tell you, John, it's totally overwhelming. I think it's hilarious. Here am I, sort of 55 years later, talking about onion dip.
and tell us the story, because it's such a great story. Onion soup sales were falling, right? And so you decided to do something about it.
Yes, they were. Well, it was rather good because in the test, as head of the test kitchen, I used to go to the AC Nielsen reports where they checked on how different products were selling. And onion soup wasn't doing very well, and I thought, well, that's a challenge if ever there was one. And also, I didn't at that time think about the reduced cream, but I went back to the test kitchen and thought, well, what can we do with this? And I had been making dips for my own parties, but not that sort of dip. And I thought, well, dips are popular, what can we do? So I tried it with ordinary cream, and it was foul. I mean, it didn't do a thing, actually. And then I thought, this is stupid. Why shouldn't I? Oh, I'm having trouble with little things in my ear. I would do something with reduced cream. After all, it was one of our products. So I put them together, and much to my surprise, they tasted good. So that's how it happened.
Now, Rosemary, you can't. I need to tell our listeners this. As Rosemary was talking then, her earpiece fell out. No, that's all right. I'm just remarking on how extraordinarily composed you are. How old are you, Rosemary?
I will be 86 on the 5th of May.
Right, and this is your first ever live cross into radio, isn't it? Your earpiece fell out, and just like a pro, you keep talking, and Zach has replaced it, and I just think actually that speaks to the spirit that invented onion dip, just quietly.
But can I let you into a secret? I was in broadcasting in the 50s.
You were not.
I was so. Yes.
And so
I also did the... I was with ZB, with Wagare, with New Plymouth. I sort of did the women's programs and shopping reporters and things like that. Great fun.
Which would have given you a fantastic insight into what worked and what didn't, right, in the catering and cocktail party kind of sense.
Yes, it did too. That'd be real. Yes, yes.
And so when the onion soup that wasn't selling started to sell because your onion dip recipe was sort of instantly becoming legendary, what was that like?
Well, it was a job, and I didn't really think anything of it. I was just so delighted. I couldn't wait for the next Nielsen's to see how much onion soup we'd sold or how much reduced cream. And I felt pretty good about it as it went up. You know, I really felt, hey, I did this. So, you know, it was good. But, John, it was a job. And it was anything, you know, if you try your best and you do what you think and something works, that's a bonus.
Yes, it is, and it's a wonderfully rewarding bonus. But I don't think there are many things we do that work quite as wonderfully well and become part of a country's life as your little recipe did. And the extraordinary thing is people are still eating it now. In fact, I heard you telling Bradley, our cameraman, they eat it there, right, at your retirement village.
Yes, they do. Yes, I'm in Epsom Village, and they have a happy hour every Thursday, and onion dip, without my knowledge even. I wasn't even aware it was happening, but they served it all the time. When I was telling Haley and Anna about it in the office, and the manager, and they said, hey, come and have a look. And in the cupboard here are these packets of soup, tins of reduced cream. Ah, I was surprised.
And of course they didn't know the author of that recipe was there amongst them. Why did it work so well? What was it that connected with people?
No way. I think the simplicity. I think probably that's what I'd put it down to. I think simplicity is the secret in cooking. I cannot spend hours preparing something. I think you can prepare something very simple with few ingredients, and that's what I think that was the secret. 2 ingredients, easy to keep in the cupboard. Boom.
Boom. Rosemary Dempsey, who invented onion dip when she was experimenting for Nestle and trying to get sales of onion soup, Maggi onion soup, I think, up. It was falling. By golly, that was a success story. Massive hat tip to Hayden at the spin-off for tracking Rosemary down. What a wonderful, lovely character. Great voice, Katrina Batten. I'd like you to read the news in those vowels. They were old RNZ vowels, weren't they, those for the days?
That's right, you had to speak like that.
Yes,
That's
you
right.
did. How now, brown cow.
Put your plum in your mouth.
That's right, beautiful. Rosemary Dempsey, who is in sparklingly good form at the age of 85 3/4. You're with Checkpoint on RNZ. We're coming up to the 6 o'clock news. Thank you for being with us.
RNZ News at 6. Ngā mihi nui, good evening. Ko Katrina Batten aho. A mother taking Wellington's District Health Board to the High Court says her case is a landmark one that could lead to lawsuits over other deaths in state care. Lynn Copeland's son Samuel Fisher died while at Wellington Hospital's mental health unit in April 2015. Jacob McSweeney reports.
Lynn Copeland says she misses her son dearly. She says the Capital and Coast DHB did not hold up her son's right not to be deprived of life, and through her lawyer is seeking $100,000 in compensation. Mrs. Copeland says if they win, it could set a precedent where other deaths in state care, such as prisoners or mental health patients, could also lead to compensation. She also hopes the case will bring more attention to the issue of stretched mental health services throughout the country. Ko Jacob McSweeney, tēnei.
A number of investigations are underway into today's fiery plane crash in Melbourne. 4 tourists and the pilot were killed when their small plane crashed into a shopping centre shortly after takeoff from Essendon Airfield in the city's northwest. The ABC's Melissa Brown reports.
It's believed a catastrophic engine failure caused what the Premier Daniel Andrews says is Victoria's worst civil aviation accident in 30 years.
There will be an investigation by the coroner, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority and the Air Safety Board.
5 people were on board the Beechcraft King Air, which took off from Essendon Airport bound for King Island at 9 o'clock this morning and crashed into the DFO shopping centre. The Emergency Services Commissioner Craig Lapsley says counselling will be offered to those at the scene.
Ambulance Victoria have already dealt with a small number of people that worked in and around the DFO facility.
The ABC understands some of the passengers were US citizens.
Melissa Brown in Melbourne. A settlement has been reached between junior doctors and the District Health Board, which the union representing the doctors says will give them safer working hours. The dispute over the doctors' rosters has been ongoing for more than a year. The resident doctors have staged 2 strikes, the first for 2 days in October last year and the second a 3-day strike last month. The association and the DHBs have reached an agreement which will ensure that resident doctors on acute 24-hour duty rosters will work no more than 4 consecutive days and receive 4 days off in every fortnight. They'll also not work more than 4 consecutive night shifts of 10 hours each. The police have been accused of presenting crime statistics in a way which could unwittingly identify the individuals involved. In November 2016, the police took over the reporting of crime data from Statistics New Zealand. Now documents uncovered through the Official Information Act have revealed the department was deeply unhappy that the police were refusing to take steps to make the data anonymous. Dr Andrew Bellamy from Auckland University's Statistics Department says the police handling of data could make it dangerous.
It's very, very dangerous. It can get easily politicised and or something clumsy can happen. Imagine someone's been accused of paedophilia and they're innocent and they're targeted. And if that person could be isolated to within a geographical region, oh my God, what a nightmare.
The police say rounding the crime data up to make it anonymous can make it less useful and give a misleading impression of crime. Civil defence officials hope the remaining residents will get restricted access to their cordoned-off Port Hills homes in the next 24 hours. 2 cordons were lifted today, allowing more than 100 residents access to their properties. But 46 properties still remain off-limits, Maya Bari reports.
Cordons remain on Dyers Pass Road at the entrances to Victoria Park and Worsleys Road. But Civil Defence Controller Anne Columbus says it is hoped that restricted access will be provided sometime tomorrow. While cordons are being relaxed, the Mayor Leanne Dalzell is still warning of the real dangers of the blaze. She says a state of emergency covering Christchurch City and Selwyn District has been extended until next Tuesday, but could be terminated earlier. This is Maya Burry.
A woman who defrauded the Ministry of Transport of over $700,000 has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Joanne Harrison was stood down from her senior role within the ministry in April last year when the fraud was discovered. A serious fraud office investigation found she used invoices to pay entities linked to her, defrauding the Crown of $723,000. Harrison had pleaded guilty to 3 representative charges of dishonestly using a document. In the Manukau District Court today, the prosecution said Harrison used $364,000 of the money to pay off her mortgage. The court was told she then transferred ownership of the property to her husband, so it could not be used for reparation. It's 6:05. To sport, the Football Ferns captain Abby Erkeg says several players were so distressed because of financial hardship that they were in tears in the build-up to last year's Olympics. After 130 caps, she has decided to retire from international football following next month's Cyprus Cup tournament, saying things must change. Erkeg says while she's still physically able to play, mentally and emotionally she's had enough, and it was particularly tough in the lead-up to Rio last year.
A pinnacle event in our career and a pinnacle event in anybody's life. Players are breaking down just because the stress becomes too much because we can't maintain the lifestyle that's required to perform at that level.
New Zealand Football Chief Executive Andy Martin says the domestic game is amateur in New Zealand and they can't afford to pay players. The former Black Caps captain Stephen Fleming has had a big hand in targeting Christchurch-born England all-rounder Ben Stokes for the Pune Indian Premier League franchise. Stokes was bought for $3 million, the highest price ever paid for an overseas player. Pune franchise owner Sanjeev Goenka says he and Fleming, who coaches the IPL side, decided Stokes was the type of player they needed, no matter the price.
We've been lacking this one genre of player in our team. We have many heroes, but this is the one hero that we were lacking. It was a very conscious strategy. We knew he's going to go expensive, and we pretty much knew that we are not going to get him at below this price.
New Zealand's Trent Boult was sold to Kolkata for $1 million, while Corey Anderson, Matt Henry, Martin Guptill and Lockie Ferguson picked up deals worth between $100,000 and $200,000. That's the news.
Tonight on Nights, Amelia Nurse talks about her odyssey to D'Urville Island, almost at the geographical centre of Aotearoa, but a world apart from the rest of New Zealand. We have a window on the world of water from an Aboriginal Australian perspective, and this week's pundit Deborah Russell brings her feminist perspective to gossip, why it's called banter when men do it. On Nights with me, Brian Crump, after the news at 7 on RNZ National.
Met Service weather through to midnight tomorrow. Northland, Auckland, Coromandel and Bay of Plenty. Fine today, apart from isolated showers in Northland. That'll clear this afternoon. Cloudy periods developing tomorrow with isolated showers. Waikatutu, Whanganui, also Taumaranui, Taihape and Taupō. Fine and cloudy periods, isolated showers developing this afternoon, clearing tomorrow morning. Manawatu, Horowhenua, Kapiti Coast and Wellington, fine with areas of cloud morning and night. Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and Wairarapa, fine. Marlborough, Nelson and Bulla, fine, but cloudy periods about Bulla with patchy rain there late tomorrow. Westland and Fiordland, rain gradually spreading north with heavy falls from the glaciers southwards, clearing in Fiordland tomorrow morning and Westland by tomorrow evening. Canterbury, high cloud increasing with a few spots of rain tomorrow. Otago and Southland, high cloud increasing, scattered rain developing this evening, then clearing tomorrow morning. The Chatham Islands cloudy, and it's 6:08 and you're listening to Checkpoint.
Thanks so much, Katrina. Just before 6 o'clock tonight, we were able to confirm the Chief Executive of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, Andrew Newman, has resigned. Somewhat unexpected resignation, we're told. Checkpoint has been told Mr Newman resigned at 4 o'clock this afternoon, told staff that. The council is expected to make a public statement tomorrow. Of course, there's been the water inquiry there, the water contamination in Havelock North, the Taniwha Dam that Andrew Newman was a big supporter of. He's a high-profile figure in the Hawke's Bay. We're trying to talk to somebody about why exactly this resignation has been tendered. 5 people have died in a fiery plane crash in Melbourne in what is Victoria's worst aviation accident in 30 years. 4 American tourists and the pilot were on board the Beechcraft Super King twin-engine plane when it crashed into a nearby retail centre, very nearby, exploding on impact catastrophically. It had just taken off from Essendon Airfield in the city's northwest and was on its way to an island in Bass Strait. Elizabeth Brown reports.
Eyewitnesses have described a huge fireball erupting out of the DFO factory outlet centre as the plane hit.
I saw this plane coming in really low and fast. It went just behind the barrier, so I couldn't see the impact, but it looked like it hit the building. There was a massive fireball. I could feel the heat through the window of the taxi, and then a wheel, looked like a plane wheel, bounced on the road and hit the front of the taxi as we were driving along.
This man was sitting at lights on a nearby road when he says he saw the plane make an unusual manoeuvre.
He sort of was up and then he banked around to his left, quite sharp, and he nearly clipped the signage here. I thought, geez, he's very low, and I thought he's going to go up, and then evidently he clipped something, whether it be the building there, and then it plummeted to the ground and into a fireball.
Another eyewitness, Peter, says he was directly underneath the plane as it hit the building.
The last thing the pilot would have seen would have been the roof of our car, and then kaboom. And then as we turned the corner, I felt this massive heat. You know, even though we hit the windows of the car up, there was just intense heat inside our car. And it's like the kind of thing you see on a movie, a massive ball of flame which went 30 or 40 feet up into the sky.
The crash happened around 9 a.m. local time, and fortunately the shopping centre had not yet opened. Grace, who works at Spotlight, says she was having a coffee in the car park before starting work.
I saw a plane fly directly above me, a metre from the roof, and it was shaking from side to side, which scared me. So I threw my coffee and ran across to the other side of the road, which is when I heard the massive bang and all the flames and smoke and everything go up.
Authorities say no one on the ground was injured and all retail staff have been accounted for. Police Superintendent Mick Fruin says the plane had sent out a mayday call shortly before the accident.
We understand that there potentially was a catastrophic engine failure, but we're unsure at this stage.
The crash set off a large fire fuelled by aviation gas. Dozens of firefighters fought the blaze and it is now out. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews says it's a tragic accident which will go down in the city's history.
Today's a desperately sad day, a very, very sad day for our state. A number of people have died as a result of what is the worst civil aviation accident that our state has seen for 30 years.
The Essendon airfield is close to Melbourne's main Tullamarine airport. The crash closed the motorway to the airport for several hours, causing traffic chaos and disruption for air travellers. A team of 4 inspectors from Australia's Air Transport Safety Bureau was due at the scene a short time ago to begin an investigation into the cause of the accident. For Checkpoint, Elizabeth Brown.
Coming up, Wellington gets summer. Bruce Springsteen in Christchurch rushes. Ambassador to the UN has died. And SIFs and their treatment of children. But let's head north. There have been tears of relief, group hugs, hearty handshakes and rapturous applause at a council meeting today in Whangarei. The Northland Regional Council's agreed to make a $1.5 million contribution to the building of a Huntavasa art gallery in the Northland city. And that makes the project almost, but not quite, a done deal. Lois Williams reports.
After years of angst and ferocious argument, the vote that's all but delivered the Huntavasa to Whangarei was over in a few sedate seconds.
I'll now put the recommendations 1, 2 and 3 in all its various parts. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against no. Abstain. Carried.
It all happened so quickly in the end that some Huntavasa supporters in the packed public seats took a moment to grasp what had just happened. And then they were so relieved, they wept.
Are you in tears?
Yeah. I'm just so happy. I just think this project's everything for this city and for my preparedness to bring up my kids in this city and for this region. And, you know, I was so scared that they were going to blow it up. I'm just so happy.
Aileen McNaughton wasn't the only one ambushed by her emotions. Clive Jackson's part of the Prosper Northland Trust that's been fundraising tirelessly for the Huntavasa project since the Whangarei District Council backed out of leading it 2 years ago. The trust had to find the last $3 million by June or lose the deal. So there was an awful lot riding on today's regional council decision.
We have had a clear message from central government that if we did not get support from our local council, our regional council, then it would make it very difficult for them to come forward with money. A clear straight up from Maggie Barry, who said, unless you get regional council on board, don't expect money from me. And so now we can go back to central government and, no, this is just fantastic news.
Only one councillor was strongly opposed to the Hundertwasser grant. Councillor John Bain argued it should have been a loan.
We're taking money out of the investment money of Northland, all of Northland. If we had a system, and mine was a pretty tame amendment, so that the loan was really long term, what have you, but the money was going to be repaid back into a system that goes to the employment and to the benefit of all of Northland.
But the council chairman, Bill Shepherd, says a loan wouldn't have met a government criterion for further funding. And he says the Hundertwasser project will benefit the whole of Northland, and the grant is an investment in the region's future and global profile.
It's got a whole lot of potential to bring a whole lot of additional visitor traffic into the region, and when we align that with a lot of the other initiatives that we're working on, like improving the highways and so forth, then it's really got the potential to be a totally unique point of difference for Whangarei and Northland in the world.
Councillor Joss Yeoman last year refused to vote for the grant before she'd had a chance to analyse the pros and cons.
And it's taken a long time to convert me from being to actually being firmly on the side of, yep, we need to get off our butts, we need to support this project.
The Regional Council grant means the Hundertwasser Gallery now has 90% of the funding it needs, and its backers are confident they'll now be able to attract the remaining $1.5 million to ensure it gets the final go-ahead. For Checkpoint, Lois Williams.
Russia's combative ambassador to the UN, Vitaly Churkin, has died suddenly in New York after being taken ill at work. Chris Dignam from Reuters filed this report.
Russia's ambassador to the United Nations, Vitaly Churkin, died suddenly at work in New York on Monday. Churkin was reportedly rushed to New York's Presbyterian Hospital Monday morning after suffering cardiac arrest at the Russian mission to the UN where he worked. The Russian Foreign Ministry giving no details on the circumstances of his death, but offered condolences to his relatives and said the diplomat had died one day before his 65th birthday. Churkin was an aggressive defender of Russian policy who often gave passionate speeches at the UN.
The aggressive actions of Russia.
Earlier this month, he argued against criticism from U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley over the recent surge of violence in eastern Ukraine. And late last year, he condemned the closing of compounds in New York and Maryland that housed Russian diplomats and their families, part of the Obama administration's sanctions against Russia for intervening in the U.S. election.
I think it's quite scandalous that they chose to go after our kids, you know.
Russian news agencies quoting President Vladimir Putin as saying he was deeply upset by the news and had greatly valued Churkin's professionalism and diplomatic talent.
6:17. Just before we move on, we are being just flooded with feedback on onion dip. We had Rosemary on before the news, the discovery, the author of the recipe for onion dip. She needed to boost flagging onion soup sales, and she came up with it. Wow, the inventor of the Kiwi dip is an absolute legend. Thank you, Rosemary, for your gift to us all. I always travel with it. I'm off to Argentina and Brazil next month. The dip will be the first thing I pack, says Annabelle. Lovely to hear, Rosemary, the onion dip inventor. The recipe has spread a little further into America and Belgium. Thanks to me missing it while we were living in Antwerp, I couldn't find reduced cream, so used sour cream instead, and the American Women's Club ladies loved it so much they asked the recipe, and it was a feature of many gatherings after that. I have no doubt those ladies took it back and have spread it further, says Kelly. My son recently purchased onion soup and reduced cream to take back to Canada to make onion dip. He had the canned cream confiscated at the border because the customs officer didn't know what it was. And I remember Rosemary Dempsey says, Phil, on ZB when I was a kid, often sick, and radio helped a lot. She was known then for her dip. I wonder if that was 1ZB when it was still an RNZ station up here in Auckland. Thank you for your feedback. The stories are flooding in. A crowd of about 30,000 people is gathering right now inside AMO Stadium for Bruce Springsteen's first Christchurch concert. This is a big deal for all sorts of reasons. Fans have been gathering since last week on a roster system, checking in every 4 hours to be the first through the gate. Earlier in the program, we spoke to Glenn McCartney, who was number 1 in the queue. But also in the queue, in the top 100, were Antoinette and Connor, all the way from Ireland. They too spoke to us this afternoon via Skype video. And where are you in the queue?
We are number 69. Here's number 69. This is Angie. Hello.
Hello, Angie.
76, 77, etc. So Holland represent. We also brought a platypus.
And who introduced me to you? So are they your kids, Antoinette?
So yeah, this one here is my son Shannon, my daughter Ava Grace.
Lovely to meet you both.
Yeah. My husband Connor.
Hi,
our
Connor.
friend Nick.
Hello. How are you?
Our friend Angie, a friend here John. We're all travelling here to Christchurch.
We're all part of the East Street fans community.
Well, so you are not from Christchurch. Where have you travelled from?
So all different. Ireland for the family here. Nick has come from Leeds in
England.
the UK.
Angie's come from
Holland, the Netherlands.
Wait a sec. Have you come all that way to see Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And see your beautiful country as well, of course.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a holiday while you're here, are you?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we're going to see as much as we can, but the main reason for coming is to see Bruce.
And why did you come to see him in Christchurch? Because he's still gigging a bit. You could see him in lots of places. Why there?
Well, we have seen him in lots of places, but we wanted to come to Christchurch as well. We heard it's going to be a really, really great show, and we really want to show support to the community here as well, and see Bruce here and spend our money here and hang out with the people here of Christchurch too.
I've got relatives that live here who I've not seen since I was 15, and they were affected by recent goings on over the last few years. So I've had time to catch up with old family members as well. So it's just been awesome.
Yeah, I bet it has been. And Antoinette, do you really mean that you want to contribute to the community? Do you understand what's been happening in Christchurch since 2011? Have you some knowledge about that?
Yeah, of course. We've been talking to some of the locals here, and, you know, we live in Ireland, but in the world now you get to find out everything that's going on. And, you know, it was devastating what happened here, and we know that it takes time to rebuild. You know, a lot of people passed away, and, you know, people were injured and people lost their homes and etc. And we're fully sympathetic of that. So
I'm a vegetarian.
We were hoping to go tomorrow as well to some of the ceremonies etc. that are taking place tomorrow, you know, to commemorate what happened a few years ago. So yeah, absolutely.
I think the other great thing about the East Street fans community around the world is everybody pulls together, and in situations like this, it's great that we can be here to talk to locals, to find out fully about their experiences as to, you know, how terrible and difficult it's been over the last few years for them all.
And let's talk about Bruce Springsteen, who you've travelled all this way to see.
Yes, let's.
What is it? And I need you to provide me with an answer that's persuasive for people who don't understand. So what is it that makes people like you love him this much?
Well, I've got a good answer there for you, John. There's a saying that goes, there are two sorts of people in the world: those who haven't seen Bruce Springsteen, those who don't like Bruce Springsteen, and those who haven't seen him play live yet. Because once they see him live, everybody's converted.
And Antoinette?
Except for my sister.
What is it for you, Antoinette?
Well, there's something special about Bruce. He speaks to everyone, and we get our energy from Bruce songs. He's been, you know, writing songs since the 60s. He's in touch with the common person. He understands the troubles that everybody has had, and he's never lost sight. People say, you know, he's a millionaire and he lives in a fancy house and all of that. Bruce has never lost sight of where he came from, and each of his songs over the years has reflected that, and they've reflected the times, and they continue to reflect the times. So when Bruce sings, people say, you know, it's more like he preaches, or you're at some sort of a, you know, a choir event or something in a rock and roll sense. He speaks to the crowd. The people get their energy from Bruce, and Bruce gets his energy from his fans. So, you know, it's an addiction. We keep coming back. You know, we've spent all our money. We're absolutely broke. We're going to have to work for 5 years to recover from this tour. But, you know, we'll keep doing it. As long as Bruce tours, we're right there as well. So, and we're the next generation, like my son here, who's 8. His favourite song at the moment is Hungry Heart, but it changes. So we'll see tonight. It could be a different one that touches him. But, you know, it's an addiction. We can't stay away. And, you know, we're delighted to be here.
Well, I hope you have the most wonderful night. What's the weather like? Can you use your Skype to show us the sky? What's it looking like?
For sure. It's about 27 degrees.
Oh,
Can you
nice,
see?
nice.
It's a beautiful day here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we have factor 30 sun protection on.
I don't.
Good.
Well, he doesn't yet,
Put
but he
it
will.
on, you naughty boy. Put it on, or I'll come down there and put it on myself.
See, we make them hardcore in Ireland.
No. You promise me you'll put sunblock on. Promise me.
Yeah, no, we'll do.
Good, thank you.
I can't see you.
And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful concert.
Thank you
ever
so
so
much.
Bruce Springsteen fans who've travelled from all around the world, literally, to be in Christchurch tonight. The weather is fantastic for the concert, not so good for the firefighters. It's still hot and dry, and they are still working at getting those fires out. Diplomatic tensions are rising between North Korea and Malaysia after the apparent assassination of the half-brother of the North Korean leader. North Korea's envoy to Kuala Lumpur has said his country can't trust the investigation by Malaysian police, while Malaysia's Prime Minister says he has absolute confidence in the objectivity of the investigation. This report from the BBC.
The last moments of Kim Jong-nam's life as he walked into Kuala Lumpur airport. Suddenly a woman in a white top grabs him from behind and places something around his face. She then calmly walks away. The whole thing has taken less than 5 seconds. Moments later, Kim Jong-nam can be seen seeking help from airport staff. He told them he'd had something wiped on his face and was feeling dizzy. Final images show him being led to the airport medical centre. A short time later, he collapsed and died. The accusation North Korea's dictator had his own brother assassinated today prompted this response.
It has been 7 days since the incident, but there is no clear evidence on the cause of the death, and at the moment we cannot trust the investigation by the Malaysian police.
Malaysian police now have 4 suspects in custody. 2 women from Indonesia and Vietnam are accused of carrying out the attack. They claim they had no idea what they were doing, that they were paid to take part in what they thought was a television show prank. Then on Saturday, police detained a 46-year-old North Korean man called Ri Jong-chol. But 4 other North Korean suspects appear to have got away, flying to Jakarta on the day of the murder. The Malaysians still don't know what was on the cloth that was wiped across Kim Jong-nam's face. A second autopsy has now been ordered to try and identify the toxin that killed him.
That report from the BBC. We're going to end tonight in Wellington. You can't beat it on a good day, as the song says. The problem is there hasn't been that many of them this summer. Residents bemoaning what feels like the worst summer in 30-odd years. But now a late burst of sunshine has Wellingtonians basking in temperatures of up to 26 degrees. That might not sound particularly impressive if you live in some parts of the country, but it is the highest recorded this summer in the capital. Max Toll reports.
Summer love returned to the capital this week. Yesterday was a cracker, today was too. And so Oriental Bay Beach was packed with grateful locals.
I dropped my daughter off at school and my little boy and I thought we'd come to the beach. We haven't been to the beach much this year.
Beautiful. We've been with friends yesterday and today, so we're just going to enjoy walking around the Oriental Bay and having a coffee outside.
Prefer not to have the wind, obviously, but you know, you get a nice day in Wellington and, well, as they say, you can't beat a fine day in Wellington.
New Zealand may have its summer.
Eden Christie works at Shake on the waterfront, which has sold plenty of ice cream and rented out dozens of crocodile bikes.
The last couple of days, actually, the sun comes out and everyone comes out, so it's buzzing, and especially on a hot day, everyone wants a cool, refreshing ice cream or milkshake. And when there's no wind, it's kind of ideal.
Temperatures this summer have been lower than the past couple of years, and there's been plenty of rain and strong winds in the capital. Yet, Eden Christie says Wellingtonians are made of stern stuff.
It definitely hasn't been probably our busiest summer, but I think Wellingtonians are pretty hardy, so you'll always get people who will go out in the craziest of conditions and go cycling.
I met service meteorologist Lisa Murray, says Wellington is more humid than usual thanks to the wind dropping. She says the good times are set to continue.
Wednesday's looking good as well. Just a bit of cloud coming in late in the evening, but it shouldn't affect the day. Should be a nice day, though the northerlies are picking up. Thursday we'll have some cloudy periods. You might even see some patchy morning drizzle up in the hills. Friday, cloud will clear and become a fine day again, and the southerlies will die out, and Saturday looks like it's going to be a good day as well.
The highest temperature recorded in a February in Wellington was just over 30 degrees in 1982. But no one is too optimistic that feat will be repeated this year. For Checkpoint, Cormac's Toll 10A.
Thanks, Max. A very good evening to everyone in Wellington. We hope that your summer has arrived late but continues for quite some time yet. Thank you for being with us tonight. That is Checkpoint. Just confirming Andrew Newman, the CEO of Hawke's Bay Regional Council, has resigned. We're not quite sure why. We work on that for tomorrow night. But very importantly, tomorrow we are in Checkpoint for the commemoration of the 6th anniversary of the February 22nd, 2011 Christchurch earthquakes. We will be coming live from Christchurch. We hope you will join us. On behalf of our excellent and hard-working team, thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow, we hope, at 5.
RNZ News headlines at 6:30. Junior doctors have settled their long-running dispute over rosters and hours. A mother taking Wellington's DHB to the High Court says her case is a landmark one that could lead to lawsuits over other deaths in state care. 4 passengers and a pilot are dead after a plane crashes into a Melbourne shopping centre. The chief executive of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council has resigned. Civil defence officials hope the remaining fire evacuees will get restricted access to their cordoned-off Port Hills homes in the next 24 hours. The police have been accused of presenting crime statistics in a way which could unwittingly identify the individuals involved. And a search is underway near Taupō for a 75-year-old woman missing since early this morning. Our next news and weather is at 7.
Black, gay, mohawk-haired and androgynously named. That's